to bring the Victoria County Municipal Council meeting for Monday, July 26th to order. The agenda has been circulated to Council. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, could we have a motion to approve the agenda as circulated, please? Moved by Councillor McNeil, seconded by Deputy Warden Daphne. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. And as usual, just a couple of quick items before we start our council session tonight. We would like to acknowledge this meeting is being held in Unama'ki, one of the 7 traditional districts of the Mi'kmaq and the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. So with that, the other item that we just want to bring to people, if they happen to be joining us this evening, we have had our council chambers redone, and this work was completed by our employee Bruce D. Morrison and Richard Founds.
Yes.
And we just want to acknowledge, and we're going to do a quick viewing of a portion of the council chambers and notice the improvements and the updating that has been carried out. And we want to thank the staff that worked and made the changes possible to this council chamber. So well done. I'd also be remiss tonight if people that are joining us would notice that one of our councillors has a rather unique hockey jersey on this evening, and sometimes it teaches us that you can make a bet. You can either win it or you can lose it. In this case, Councillor Patterson lost his bet on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and as a result has to wear Councillor McNeil's coveted Montreal Canadiens sweater. So well done, Paul. Yeah, and you even wore a nice red mask to go with the sweater. It's a nice coordination, Councillor. Well done. So with that, we have approved the agenda. We are going to move on to the one presentation that we have coming to Council tonight. And we have with us tonight Carolyn Whitman and Penelope Gerstein, I believe. And they have a presentation, and it is in regards to a national project that is being done on housing. And this particular project is called the Housing Assessment Resource Tool, or the HART project. So I'd like to welcome both of you to Victoria County this evening in Cape Breton. I guess, Penelope, are you joining us from Vancouver or BC?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
And I go by Penny.
Penny, thank you, Penny. I appreciate that. And Carolyn is joining us from the nation's capital in Ottawa. So we're going to turn it over to you two, and we look forward to your presentation. And if you prefer, you can have questions after or during. I'll let you lead the discussion. So the floor is open to our presenters. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. When I present, all I'm going to be able to see is the full screen of the presentation. However, if anyone speaks up or there's a chat comment, I'm sure that Penny and I can respond to it immediately, and it's a very informal presentation, I hope. So let's get this started. There we go. So yes, we're presenting to you tonight, and thank you very much for having us, on the housing assessment resource tools that we've been developing, and we hope to be using with other governments, including Victoria County, over the next year. So what we've been focusing on is a tool with 2 parts. One is improved housing need assessment methods, and the second is improved ways of assessing the suitability of public and nonprofit land for the development of social and affordable housing. The CMHC asked for funding for applications under the Housing Supply Challenge. The deadline was January. We were one of the successful applicants, and in the first stage, which was a 6-month stage, we're testing the prototype with the city of Kelowna in BC. And we're now working on a second stage funding proposal, which, if it's successful, would run from October 2021 until March of 2023. So to start off with the housing need assessment, the real question for governments across Canada is how to set the right housing targets to create an effective housing strategy that meets the needs of people who are most in housing need. So to start off with, we need to know how many homes are required, and we certainly have a headline figure as part of Canada's National Housing Strategy in 2017, which is that 1.7 million Canadian households are in core housing need. We also need to know, and sometimes including in the National Housing Strategy, we don't focus on particular income categories or price points. So this focuses on big cities in Canada, but it's also true of smaller communities. Generally, housing need is concentrated in the lowest quintile of household income. People who earn, let's say, less than 15, or households that earn less than $15,000 a year. It starts the need starts to be met as you move between about 15 to 30,000 a year. And then generally, although there might be dissatisfaction with the ability to buy a house, for instance, core housing need starts to be met. When we're talking about core housing need, we're talking about 3 elements. The first element is affordability, that the household shouldn't be spending more than 30% of its income on rent. The second is overcrowding. So there's national occupancy standards. It's basically 1 bedroom per person, although couples and younger children can share a room. And the third is the state of repair. One of the things that housing need assessments sometimes don't have in terms of numbers is what's the size of the households in housing need. And not all low-income households are single-person households. We also need to look at equity considerations. There's a dozen priority populations that have been highlighted by the National Housing Strategy and the CMHC, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. We know that single mother households specifically are far more likely to be in core housing need. We know that new migrant households and refugee households can quite often be in housing need. We know that Indigenous households can quite often be in housing need, as well as senior-led households are more likely to be in housing need. Again, one of the things that housing need assessments sometimes don't do is look at net loss of affordable housing and population projections over, let's say, the 10 years of a housing strategy. So this is an example actually from Singapore after it became independent way back in 1964. It looked at inadequate housing, so the current deficit, which was mostly overcrowding. It looked at housing that was likely to be torn down in the next 10 years because it was in a poor state of repair. And it also looked at the natural increase in population, added up the 3 numbers, and came up with needs that needed to be met in the next 10 years. And remarkably, they managed to do that new country of Singapore. A lot of housing strategies are created without that data, including this example from the National Housing Strategy that doesn't really talk about price points or about the loss of affordable housing, which has been calculated as 15 homes that were renting at $750 per month or less were lost between 2011 and 2016 for every one new affordable home built. So that's going to create a problem as you go along with the housing strategy. So the good news is that HART provides methods that are simple and robust, equity focused, comparable, and can be replicated over time. So based on what we know about international best practice, we look at, as I say, these three numbers: the deficit, the current number of households in core housing need, the projected loss or gain of affordable housing units over 10 years, which is projected forward from the trends from the last 10 years. And we look at projected population growth, but also change, for instance, aging of the population. We look at how affordable it needs to be, and using the example of several places, including a lot of US cities and certainly Vancouver, we look at 5 income bands: a very low income band who earn less than 20% of the median income of an area such as Cook, such as Victoria County, and sometimes that's equivalent to the social assistance shelter allowance. We look at low income households that earn between 20 and 50% of the median income in the area, which sometimes equates to one person working full-time at a minimum wage job. We look at moderate income households, so 70 to 80% of the median income, for instance, a teacher or a nurse when they're starting out. We look at average income households, 80 to 120% of area median income, and we look at the housing need among high income households. And we also look at how large they need to be. So for each of those income categories or price points, we look at the size of the household. Is it a one-person household, a two-person household, or a larger household? And we also try to break down the housing data as much as possible to priority populations who might have specific needs, including Indigenous people, including visible minorities, including people with various kinds of disabilities. In terms of our land assessment tool, which we have been undertaking at the same time as a need assessment tool, the focus is on the most viable locations to deliver affordable housing. So we look at the proximity of various services and amenities, daily needs like groceries, public transport if it's there, schools, libraries, parks and open space. These kinds of distances are appropriate for cities. One of the things that we really want to do is look at a rural area and how we can further refine the locational aspect of what we do. Then we overlay where the public and the nonprofit land is. The main reason for that is that every international report says that the two most efficient ways to bring down the cost of housing are to use public land and either rent it out or sell it for a peppercorn rate, and also to use nonprofit housing providers, which takes off another 20% of the profit bottom line. In a lot of the work that we've seen recently, there's some really imaginative use of new infrastructure like new libraries, new health centers, new fire halls with housing on top of it, even new parking lots with housing on top of it. And we also need to know where we need to purchase existing affordable housing that's at risk of being lost, and which the federal government is getting more into with its current Rapid Housing Initiative program. In terms of the city of Kelowna, which was our prototype, we chose Kelowna because it was a mid-sized town and because it was already a trendsetter, frankly, in terms of affordable housing assessment. So we knew that we'd find the information fast, and we only had 6 months to test it out. So the overall supply of housing in the Kelowna area is good compared to other places in British Columbia, like Vancouver and Victoria. If you look at the total requirements that have been calculated and what's being provided, Kelowna is actually providing enough housing between 2016 and 2020 to meet overall supply needs. We looked at the income categories in Kelowna. The average household earns $68,600 per year. That's higher than the Canadian average, which is about 58, and it's probably higher than a lot of, well, Victoria County, for instance. So we never look at Canadian averages, we look at the local averages because that determines local housing prices. When we looked at the income categories in Kelowna, there actually were a lower proportion of very low income households, only about 2%. The Canadian average is 6%. And there were also a slightly lower proportion of low income households, 13% in Kelowna, as opposed to the Canadian average of 16%. However, and this didn't surprise us, the majority of very low income households that earn under $15,000 a year and can only afford to spend $375 per month or less, 80% of those households were in core housing need. When it came to low income families that can afford, no matter what the size of the dwelling is, between $375 and $750, over 50% of the households were in housing need. And with moderate incomes households where the rent was up to $1375, it was a smaller proportion, about 12% who are in housing need. Again, this is similar to the situation in many parts of the country, even though there's a lot of supply to meet the growing population, it's not at the right price point. Then we looked at income category by household size. There's a big drive to build small, supportive housing units in Kelowna, like many parts of Canada, but about 15% of households are 2+ person households. When it comes to low income households, almost 40% of the households have 2 or more people. And when it comes to housing need among moderate income households, the main problem was moderately sized family housing with 2 or 3 or more people. I should mention at this point that we were using 2016 data because the 2021 census has just occurred. We should be able to use 2021 census data next year when we're working with other governments. We then broke down housing need by various priority populations, including female single parents, visible minority, Indigenous, and various kinds of disabilities. Some of the data wasn't available. Again, it wasn't too surprising that the group that was most likely to be in core housing need were female single parents, closely followed by Indigenous people. And of course, people have multiple sources of identity, but we were looking at what kinds of targets could be set for various priority populations. When we looked at the trends in net loss of affordable homes, Kelowna was actually a bit of an outlier because, as I mentioned earlier, Greater Kelowna didn't have net loss of affordable housing over 2006 to 2016, i.e. it more or less kept pace with a growing population. But of course, or I shouldn't say of course, the vast majority of new homes that were created, including a lot of rental units, purpose-built rental units, were unaffordable to the majority of people who needed rental units. The population projections for Kelowna are quite high. It's growing more than 3% per year, which is, again, very high. So that means a lot of new households need to be accommodated over the next 10 years. Our bottom line for Kelowna, the numbers that we ended up showing them, was that the overall housing production, which had been about 10,000 over the 5 years between 2016 and 2020, there isn't a problem with the overall housing production. What's being called for in the next 10 years, given existing trends, can happen. The real challenge is how to address growing homelessness by being able to create policy mechanisms to meet the needs of very low-income people and of low-income people who are in housing need, which of course took us to the land assessment. So some of the policy implications of the need assessment are perhaps the housing target of a third social, which is very ambitious and would need a lot of senior government assistance, a third at set rents with rent control, and a third being market. That's the case in many cities, for instance, in Germany. In Montreal, in Canada, 20% of all new housing is supposed to be social housing, and another up to 20% are affordable below market rents, and that's true for all new developments. So we came up with a set of targets. Of course, the targets are an issue of the political decisions made by the council, as well as the assistance that they get from the provincial and federal government. So when we turn to the land assessment, we fiddled around a little bit with the locational analysis, as we would with any new city. Public transport is a little bit less of an issue, although it's still important. We still gave it up to 3 points, but health centers are important because of a large aging population. Then we identified all public and nonprofit sites that had a score of more than 10 points using the locational tool that we described in the last slide. We found 230 sites, quite a lot, the majority owned by the municipality, a lot of parking lots. So a lot of them are concentrated in Kelowna along particular main roads. These Google Earth images give a sense of the sites. In some cases, they're vacant. We certainly didn't include any parks, any floodplains, any industrially polluted lands. Most of them were, as I say, very well located, either vacant or with a single-story building on them. There's more than enough land to meet the social housing needs of Kelowna. And so the recommendations are to help scale up social housing production by using community land trusts, to link infrastructure, investment in infrastructure with homes on top, and to start identifying some existing properties that can be acquired with the help of the federal government. We also have done a national survey asking how equipped organizations are to take on housing need and land assessment. We got responses from 54 different places. Some were big cities like Edmonton and Calgary and Vancouver. Some were very small communities. Some were First Nations. Most half had done housing need or land assessment before. Some had completed very sophisticated assessments, especially some of the larger cities. But across the board, a lack of standard data, standardized methods of doing need assessment, and training up local governments so that they're less dependent on consultants are issues. There's a real demand for open data and particularly for better training. Therefore, what we're going to be doing in the next phase of our project is that we're going to be rolling out the housing need assessment tool and the land assessment tool that are intended to provide consistency and comparability to 10 governments, we hope, over the next 18 months between October of this year and March of 2023, if we receive funding from the CMHC. So we have finished the prototype and it's going to be published in August. The report on it will be scaling up the proposal in September. We are going to do very intensive work in 3 communities that need a lot of assistance because they haven't done a need assessment before. We're going to support 7 more governments to use the tool, including possibly a provincial or territorial government. We're in discussions with one, but they can do most of the work themselves, and we'll be developing a training module. So that's it for my presentation, and we would really love for Victoria County to be one of our partners in the next round, and specifically one that we would give a lot of assistance and support to. So I'm going to stop the share now, and I'm sure you have lots and lots of questions. Or at least I hope you do.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much for your presentation, and I'm sure there are questions, and I think with just the format we had this evening, we're just going to go from one side of the table through the districts and individual councillors. If any questions or comments, we'll ask them, direct them directly towards you. And we'll start with the Montreal Canadian councillor just to my far right, Councillor Patterson, if any questions
or comments. Is it possible that I could see the council? Because I'm now on 2 screens, but I can't see the people who are asking questions. There we go. Thank you. Sorry, sir, I can't hear you.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I can hear you now. I'm great. How are you?
You've done an impressive amount of work on this topic by your look at showing us tonight. I actually visited Kelowna a few years ago. My brother-in-law's sister lived there, and it is a beautiful community for sure. I guess generally, what I see from the housing situation, and I think it's across the country, you alluded to it too, the market is just burning itself up. You know, people are getting their quoted listed prices plus maybe 10 or 20 or 30% more. In your experience, how long do you think that can last?
Actually, Penny probably has a better answer than I do, but I can say that I just got back from 2 decades in Australia, in Melbourne, Australia specifically, and there has been no end. Our property, we bought a property, lived in it for 15 years, it tripled in value in Melbourne, and there's no end to that housing bubble in sight either. Partly because a lot of people are buying housing as an investment, and there's a lot of restless capital, both within Canada and internationally. Penny, can you answer?
Yeah, I would say, yes, I agree with what Carolyn is saying. And what's happening now is, and especially during COVID it accelerated, is that communities such as yours are probably also feeling the impact of people moving in because they're seeing sort of more flexibility in terms of work, and they're willing to sort of buy at fairly high prices. So we're not, I mean, our tool is not going to stop the financialization of housing. I think what our tool is going to do is actually show to a community what is actually needed in terms of housing and what are the resources you actually have already to work on some of those issues.
Thank you.
Deputy Warden Daphne, any questions or comments?
Yes, no, thank you very much for the presentation. I guess, yeah, our county is probably in a situation where we do have a big influx of people and we have some projects on the go that are definitely housing is becoming one of the more critical needs. And I guess the easy way is to go out and think that, yeah, you get some land and you build some houses, but like you said, though, you have to know the needs and stuff like that. Is there a time frame? I know you mentioned months of doing the actual statistics or whatever, getting the information and stuff, but if we were to start from scratch of just starting using the assessment tool to find out what the needs are, in your experience, how many years does it take to go from that point to actually seeing houses on the ground? I don't know if that's a fair question to ask you or not, but I'm just wondering what length of time it would take.
No, that's a super good question. One of the advantages of using public or nonprofit land is that you don't have to worry about purchasing it for social housing. You can get rezoning quite often done more quickly. Certainly with the Rapid Housing Initiative from the federal government, there's been the expectation that you can build housing, and they've been pushing a modular model, but it doesn't need to be modular housing, within 18 months. So it's possible to get new homes built in 18 months. You really have to have someone in your staff who's facilitating, and you have to have the land beforehand and the permissions pretty much, that is the rezoning, if there is a rezoning, pretty much in hand. But you can get housing built in 18 months to a year if those preconditions are met. Penny, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in small communities like Victoria County, I mean, I'm sure that there are lots of people who are looking for work, and it could be even faster than that. So what this tool is going to do is give you the data that's needed in order for you to make very strong arguments with the province and with the federal government, recognizing that there does seem to be some. There is some imbalances because there are larger communities that have staff in place who are working on needs assessments within their own units, within their own municipalities, whereas smaller communities just don't have those resources. So what we're seeing, and this was actually something that's been identified during the course of our research on this, is that we see this as really an advantage to smaller, more remote communities, to hopefully leveling the playing field for that, so that you'd be actually ready when the federal government or the provincial government comes up with saying this is a program, and you'll say, look, we're ready. This is we've done this. This is what it shows. It shows that we need this. It shows, that we need this kind of housing, and we actually have available land to be doing this. It puts you in a very good position. So.
No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Councillor Oregon, any questions?
Great presentation. I know the housing is crucial in all areas, but especially for low-income families and migrants that are coming into our communities. But I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Yes, thank you, Warden. Thank you for the presentation. Lots of valuable information. I was just wondering, in regard to your research, what was the most type of housing that was asked, whether that be throughout? What was the main type of housing that, I guess, through your research that seemed to be adamantly asked of or advocated for?
Well, the sources of our data were mainly census. It's not qualitative research. We weren't really asking people what kind of housing they really wanted. We were saying, here is where households are spending too much money, or they're overcrowded, or they're in a place that's in really poor repair. We were focusing on rental housing because, at least in Kelowna, the average home cost would be about $800,000, and that is unaffordable to first-time home buyers unless they're earning about 2 times the annual income. So we were focusing on rental housing, but it was a bit neutral in terms of whether it was an apartment or a single-story home. Kelowna is definitely committed to having more well-located housing in the central area, and that map that I showed you would almost certainly have 3, 4 stories or more, because Kelowna is a city of 140,000 people. I think it would be a different kind of story about what's feasible, what people would want in Victoria County. So it's more about what's the price point, what's the adequacy of the home, than whether it's an apartment or a single family home.
But I think that's a really good question. And one of the things that we're intending to be doing in the second phase is really fine-tune the tool, and that may very well be something that we might want to be considering to be including, because we recognize that different communities have different kinds of housing needs. So that's something for us to really consider. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Councillor McNeil, any questions or comments, please?
Yeah, no, thank you for the presentation. I think Penny answered my question before. Like, I was wondering how beneficial it would be to more rural communities, and you did answer that question. I know with the pandemic hopefully coming to a near end anyway, entrepreneurs and businesses will be starting up in this area, and they'll be looking for workers in their area to come. And basically we'll be looking for people to come in, immigrants and everything, to work at these places, and we need houses like that, and that's what we'll probably have to look at with this tool, and I can see that being beneficial, so thank you.
Even Kelowna said that when the Rapid Housing Initiative was announced in September of 2020, and it was partly a COVID response, a response to concerns about increasing eviction and people losing their homes, etc. They lost out. They lost out to Vancouver and Victoria in terms of national funding because they didn't have the stats at the ready. And at the other extreme, Toronto, which for various reasons clearly got an advanced head up of what the Rapid Housing Initiative would be asking for, came up with its plan to address it, including all of the city-owned sites it would be using for the federal money. The day that the announcement was made, so they clearly had some advance notice, and they were able, and of course housing need is very acute in Toronto, but they were able to scoop up a very large portion of the money almost immediately because they had the stats on hand and they had the land on hand. So part of what we want to do with this project, as Penny said, is to be able to help some smaller communities to play on a more level playing field than large cities that have a lot of planning staff and that can immediately go, here's our housing need, here's our priority populations, here's the pieces of land we're going to build on. It's not like, we want to make a relatively simple tool that everyone can use so that they can do that when the federal government has money on hand.
Thank you.
Councillor MacLeod.
Thank you for the presentation. I think it's just a comment. You have a great tool there. Personal is I am very interested in that, because as we have some housing issues here, and I like the Be Ready for Federal Provincial. I think, thank you, it's very interesting. And there's some in your presentation that I never hear before, so it's very fresh it's like a puzzle for us to make sure we're ready for the opportunity with the federal provincial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Longva. I don't think your mic's on, Barb. Red button. Yeah.
Thank you, Carol and Penny, for your very informative presentation. And I said I really liked the idea of using public land because the price of land and real estate's gone very high in Victoria County. But by public land, do you mean like Crown land or municipal land?
Yes, we looked at land that was currently held by all levels of government, provincial, Crown agencies, school boards, churches, because we looked at nonprofit land as well. Quite often churches are very interested in using their land for social good, but municipal land was about, well, certainly in Kelowna, was about half of the well-located places that came up. They ranged in size, but you know, and as I say, we kind of immediately eliminated anything that was parkland, anything that was environmentally protected, and anything that was very polluted. And there still was a lot of land that could be effectively built up for social and affordable housing.
Thank you.
No problem. So the next steps for us is that if your council is interested in working with us as a partner, we'd love to have an email and eventually a letter that says that you're interested in partnering with us. There's no cost attached to it, and indeed we'd be very interested, particularly in a small community such as yours, in providing a lot of as much assistance as we could. We're going to need that by the end of August in order to apply by September 29th to the CMHC.
Great, thank you very much. And we may have a decision for you as early as tonight. But just before we enter into that, I just had a quick question. Kelowna, I'm a little bit familiar with. How much of an impact did short-term rentals and Airbnbs have on the housing stock and affordability?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that is all of these places in. It is very significant. There's actually there's another project that I'm working on. There's somebody from McGill University who's been doing a lot of work on short-term rentals and the significant impact that it's having on the housing stock. So that's why a number of municipalities are now really clamping down on them and sort of kind of really, there's kind of much more expectations that they have to be licensed. There has to be some, something in check. They have to pay, fees in order to do this. This is not something, because what's happened is so many of it has become, it isn't just one person doing it. Often it's somebody who's managing a number of units for people, for a company, things like that. So it is quite significant. There was a breather really during COVID because the short-term rentals wasn't possible. So Carol and I actually did another project that looked at impacts on housing of COVID internationally, and in places like Portugal, they were turning short-term rentals into permanent rental housing stock. They just said, look, we need permanent rental housing stock. So it really has to be municipalities taking the initiative on this, on what they can do. But also what's happened in places like Vancouver is that strata councils are now saying no short-term rentals, so they're sort of also mandating it within that. So there's just a number of ways of putting a check on it. I mean, they're very useful for some, ways of being able to travel around, but its impact on affordable rental housing for people is really significant. So.
Thank you very much. Just one other quick question. If we were to enter into your study, do we enter in at phase 2, or do we wait till that's done?
So the timeline for that is that we apply on September 29th, but if the second round's anything like the first round, we've been promised a decision very quickly by mid-October. So we'd be starting to work in mid-October. It won't be until about May of 2022 before the 2021 census data is available, but we'd hope to have the needs assessment and lands assessment finished by the end of 2022. That's the timeline for the work that we would be doing.
And the whole project has to be finished by March 2023. So it's a very short turnaround. So.
Great. Thank you very much. I just want to know what council's decision, if they would wish to make any decisions tonight. Go ahead, Deputy Warden.
Sorry, just one question that's kind of off base, and I'm just wondering, here in the tourism sector, we have what's called domed facilities. It's a white dome, and we see them mainly in the summer and stuff. In your studies, have you ever come across anyone that's using these domes as a full-time residence? Have you seen anything like that? I don't know if you know what I mean by the domes.
No, could you describe them a little bit more? Are they geodesic domes?
Yeah, geodomes. It'd be like if you took a soccer ball and cut it in half, and you can basically buy them for about $20,000 fully with everything inside, and they are guaranteed for 10 years. I'm just wondering if anyone's using them for full-time residences anywhere.
No.
Okay.
But Buckminster Fuller would have loved this. He was the person who invented the geodesic dome, and he would have thought that was a great idea.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any final questions or comments before we... Any questions? You're good? Well, we want to thank you very much for your presentation tonight. It was most informative, and we will discuss over the next, maybe as early as this evening, whether or not we wish to move forward with joining the study, and we will definitely notify you before the end of August.
Thank you so much. And on a personal note, I've been wanting to go back to Cape Breton Island for a while now, and I'll be visiting your lovely shores in late August. So all being well.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome to Victoria County.
My brother lived in Cape Breton, so I used to visit him there. So.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. So just before we move off that subject, is what are council's thoughts? Do you want some time to wait and make a decision, or are we interested to become a partner in this study?
I guess my opinion is that's something I think we should push forward. I think, like she said, when funding comes out, if you don't have those stats and you can't provide your business plan, you're not going to get anywhere. So my recommendation is to make a motion that we accept and notify them we're willing to work or coordinate with them to use their tool and see where it brings us.
Do you have a seconder for that motion, please?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor MacLeod. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, and we will ask CAO to contact Penny and Carolyn and let them know that we are interested, and housing has been a priority and a concern for Victoria County, so I think it's a wise decision to be part of that study. Just as you stepped out, we had a motion to join that study for the housing assessment resource tool in Phase 2. And sir, you are in favor of that as well?
Yes, sir.
You're not opposed. Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much. We are going to move on to the minutes of June 28th. Those minutes have been circulated to you. I'll just give you a minute or two just to review those again. Are there any errors or omissions in those minutes? If you are satisfied with them, we have a motion to approve the minutes of council session June 28th, 2021.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. Do we have a seconder, please?
I'll second.
Councillor Organ has seconded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion's carried and the minutes are approved. Old business arising from the minutes, we'll turn it over to CAO, and then if there are any others that come from council, we will address them at that time. So Leanne, please.
Great. So just to let everyone know, I've been in touch with Robert Bernard, and we'll be setting up a learning session for council on Mi'kmaq 101 or Mi'kmaq traditions and learning from Robert. I contacted TIR related to the cycling signs that the request was out for, and the request has to actually come from the cycling group. Council can only support it. We can't actually do the ask, so the cycling group will have to put the request in, but council can certainly send a letter of support. On housing, so we had this presentation, which was great. Amy set this up for us for a presentation on HEART project. I also met with Cape Breton Partnership, and they're reaching out to some contacts to see if there's some things that we can do related to land that we actually do own, related to some priorities of our housing committee. Just to let you know, on the beautification grant, we sent that in June 29th. We have yet to hear back, but that was approved to send in on behalf of the village for the waterfront project. Council was involved in bylaw training, which we had with Nick Barr and Ross McDonald. I think it was very helpful and informative. And Norman will be, I don't believe you were there, and possibly Larry, you weren't at that one? So we'll get you the information from it. Perfect. On the PowerPoint.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Paul met with Dan and myself regarding tourism and some tourism initiatives over in District 1. Barb, I believe, met with Jocelyn on heritage properties and cemeteries. I sent out some research that Jocelyn had done on cemeteries today, and she did a recommendation related to that also. So that info went out. And Norman, I contacted DNR in regard to North Harbour area, and they were checking on it. Old business that I have.
Any questions or comments for the CAO in regards to old business? Yes, sir, Deputy Warden.
Excuse me. Yeah. No, in regards to the Housing Cape Breton Partnership, was there anyone has approached New Dawn, or are we letting them approach New Dawn? I guess.
So Amy actually was talking with New Dawn, and they could be interested, and that's where this association with the HEART project came from. So yes, we have looped them in, but we were going to look. Cape Breton Partnership was going to reach out to possibly some of their contacts that they have for other initiatives also related to housing.
No, thank you.
Any other questions or comments in regards to old business? Thank you very much. We're going to move on to new business.
Okay, great. So just to let you know some things that are going on in some of the departments within the municipality. So report from Senior Safety, Cassandra. She's let me know that BOLD will now be administering the Cyber Seniors project that is going on. So she'll have some more information related to that in the upcoming days. She's also looking at options for the Good Food Bus program. So it's kind of it is a value, local foods at a value-added price. That we're looking to have some locations where the Good Food Bus can go and deliver some local product. She also is working on an uncommon room project, but it looks like Home Support will be taking this on, and she'll be working with the long-term care facility rec departments related to that. Victoria County Transit, we're looking at ways to up our advertising on that to get senior ridership up. It seems that young people are riding the buses more than seniors, so she's going to have a look at that. There's also Bold meet and greet where seniors can meet there at the Bold location over here, Tuesdays from 5 until 8 and Saturdays from 9 until 12. And she was meeting with Rosella Bourne on the Victoria County Health Board, who's also on some other boards, and they're going to start collaborating on some things. In our finance department, so next week, Alex will be back. She'll be back on Tuesday. And Amy will be here for another at least couple of months. But related to that, we're going to have to schedule another budget meeting for some changes that came about after the budget was approved. So I'm hoping maybe Wednesday, July 28th at 10 a.m., if that would work, just to go over the changes. We'll send out a meeting request to see if that works. We could do a Zoom call for it. Should only be a short meeting for a couple of changes that are happening. We're also looking to convert to Microsoft 365, and so we'll be migrating council's emails and laptops. We also today had Seaside in to change our Wi-Fi over, so you should notice that your Wi-Fi is probably a little bit quicker. Yeah. And can hold more capacity at this time. These people that were just here, the HARP project, had a housing survey that was sent to you, so hoping you can complete that as well. Our tax bills were sent out last week. There was a couple of mechanical glitches that happened, but they did get sent out last week, and related to that, I'll speak about that a little bit in the taxation update, but it's been very busy downstairs. So they're doing a great job. And we hired a new short-term staff member to help with the overload of people visiting and paying their bills down there. If you see Shane, say hello to him. He's our new staff member down there. And the PACE bylaw is now in effect. We have advertised that in the paper, and that is now up and running. So that's the property assessment, clean energy, energy efficiency upgrades. So if anyone is interested in that, they can look on our website for the application form. In Lydia's Department of Recreation and Active Living, we received some more accessibility funding, and we're looking to purchase some more some trail chairs for the trails that we will be developing. She is going to be doing bi-weekly hikes to enhance the step challenge. She's looking to implement a youth program. Again, just a note on the mental health first aid, that will be happening in the fall in the locations that it wasn't there. We're having our first placemaking session tomorrow in Iona. So that will be from 12 until 3 tomorrow. So that's the first of several that will be happening around the county. She's also working hard on trails and working on getting the geographical assessments done with moving forward. And a meeting with Parks on some initiatives that they're working together with. So herself and Dan in the tourism department. So in Public Works, our water utility bills went out. Upgrades are happening on our Neils Harbor water treatment plant, Neils Harbor New Haven water treatment plant. The lead sampling program that I talked about at the last council session will be available on our website soon. Keep checking to see if it's something that could our residents could take advantage of or take part in. There's an RFP going out on a fencing project for the, I think it's the, I'm not sure which water utility it's for, and it just slipped my mind, but there's one that we need to put a fence around. We had a meeting up at Cape Smoky regarding the wastewater treatment plant, and we're looking at different options up there for that one. They're in a major need right now. Our reuse center, currently Bedeck is really busy, very busy. Our groups love that, but the one in Dingwall is needing some help. It needs some product that's put there, and it needs some groups. So if you know of any organizations, not-for-profits that could use some funds. It's an easy way to do it. We're open to having any of them run it. We can go down and help show them how to do it. But we also need product. So if you have any gently used items that could go into that location, we're always looking for that. They're also looking for it when people come into the transfer station up there now. So our staff are keeping their eyes open if there's anything that might be gently used to be putting in the building. Just a note again, as I'm sure you all know, but tipping fees will be starting August 30th. Our amended solid waste bylaw has been approved, and residential changes will be happening August 1st related to leaf and yard waste. And the courthouse RFQ has been closed, and we'll be evaluating and awarding out the RFQ for this building here to see where we stand related to this. In Dan's department, Dan's been working on placemaking sessions, trails, and also just to let everyone know, there's still some festival and event funding that's available through Destination Cape Breton. It will be extended out into the fall. There's a pot of money there, so if there's some events that are happening, please put your application into Destination Cape Breton and contact them for some more information. Just a couple of other things. Our washroom expression of interest closed. We're taking the next steps to evaluate it. You may have seen I sent an email out to all of the locations. If they didn't give me a price yet, we're looking at a few different options because we'd like to ideally put up as many locations as we can with the pot of money that we have. Several of our trails team went on an e-bike tour of the Celtic Shores Coastal Trail, and that's a great business opportunity for lots of different locations around here. Really, really interesting. Just to let everyone know that we received a request. On September 27th to October 3rd. That is considered International Right to Know Week. They're asking us to do a proclamation on it. Wondering if council is interested in proclaiming that Right to Know Week. And I'll bring that up in a little bit, but I'll give you that also.
We've done it in the past.
Yes, we have, yes. So September 27th to the 3rd. Our tax sale happened July 22nd. Fortunately, there was only one property that had of the properties that were left on the tender sale, there was only one property that had a bid on it of the ones that were still left there, and it was less than what the actual price, the minimum bid was, so the property didn't go. And I'll get into a little bit more on the tax update. We also received a request from Cape Breton Gateway Project related to a new gateway welcoming at the Canso Causeway. And there was a request, I'm not sure if you were going to bring that up or not?
No, go ahead.
Okay. There is a request for seeing if we are interested in being part of a gateway project for Cape Breton Unama'ki. They're looking for proposals for a multidisciplinary consultant team to prepare a development strategy for this project. Prior to issuing this RFP, we must confirm funding commitments from stakeholders and partners. It's estimated a detailed development strategy will cost between $50,000 and $70,000. There's a commitment from ACOA to fund half of it. So the request is to see if our municipality and neighboring municipalities are willing to put in an amount of $5,000 towards the Cape Breton Gateway project. So that's a request that has come in. I don't know if there's a deadline on it, but I think that they can't go forward with the RFP if they don't know who is in or who is not in. Yeah, sure.
Just to speak to it very quickly, Department of Transportation is changing the rotary, or the rotary that is there, and when those changes are being made by the province of Nova Scotia, there is an interest of other municipalities to have some input of what potentially could what other changes could be made at that time to enhance visitor experience once they come to Cape Breton. So I think for us as a municipality, although we don't neighbor the Strait of Canso, I think it definitely has an impact and something that we should be quite interested and we should provide some feedback for. So I would strongly suggest that council consider providing funding to be part of this request for proposals.
Would that affect this year's budget?
It's only $5,000 that it requires.
Yes, it would, but there is well, we can discuss that I guess we can discuss that at the budget meeting, but there is a line, a municipal projects, council municipal projects, so there is room there for it.
Leanne, they mentioned the budget meeting on the July 28th. Did you mention a time?
At 10. Yeah, 10 a.m.
So how about we refer this to the July 28th Budget Committee meeting? It doesn't appear to be a deadline on it. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor.
It's like asking $5,000 for each municipality? It's like First Nations too, or is just municipality?
I believe that it would be, it must be coming from 7 different municipalities. So I would assume that it's all of Cape Breton and First Nations.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, there's 5 First Nations communities and there's 5 municipalities, including the town of Port Hawkesbury. So
I'm not sure what the makeup is of the rest of it, but our request was for 5,000.
So we'll refer that to our July 28th budget, and you can let Lynn from the Cape Breton Partnership know that it was tabled tonight and that we will defer it until July 28th.
Would you like to make a motion to accept it in theory, depending on if we can fit it in the budget? If that is something that council is interested in, or do you want to wait?
The 28th is just later this week.
Right, but would you then need a motion to accept
Yeah,
it?
that's true, because we would not be meeting again till the end of August. So can we make a motion to agree in principle pending approval at the finance meeting on July 28th?
Yeah, make a motion.
Thank you, Councillor MacLeod. Do we have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Councillor McNeil, a second motion. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried. So just to be clear, we're not spending the money now. We're going to review it on the 28th, but we will give the partnership the indication that council likes the idea in principle. Anything else for under new business? Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor McDonald and then Councillor McNeil and then Councillor MacLeod. Councillor McDonald.
Yes, just in regards to various departments, I was wondering if you could maybe get in touch with Public Works. Was the gate for the Dingwall water tower, just an update on that, and the sign, the Victoria County sign at the end of my district, it never has been changed to date. That's pretty tattered looking. The sign, the Victoria County sign where you come into the district there. That was asked quite a while back, and still there's been no change in that. If you could just look into that, please.
Okay. I think we were waiting to do that sign till after the plows finished, and then Bruce got started on this room. So I think that is the reason why. So the Victoria County sign, yep, for sure.
And just the gate for the tower, water tower in Dingwall there. An update on that, please.
Okay, sure.
Councillor McNeil, you had a question or comment?
Yes, thank you, Warden. For the placemaking session tomorrow in Iona, I'm just concerned there won't be a lot of people because there wasn't a lot of advertising done for it. Like, I just found out about it myself. There was talks about it being, but it wasn't confirmed until just a little while ago, so I'm kind of concerned that there won't be too many people there.
Okay.
If not, could we, could we schedule another session?
Yep, so we have a rain date scheduled. I don't think the weather is calling for rain, but yeah, we can definitely do this as a pilot, work the kinks out, and if we need to do another one, then we will work it into the rain date.
I just got a couple of texts about it that nobody knew about, so.
Okay.
That's why I'm kind of worried, so,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McLeod.
I believe it's on the calendar, our municipal calendar.
Oh, is it?
Mhm. That's what we're referring everyone to. If you want to know something, it's on the calendar.
Councillor McLeod.
Just a question about the right to know. If you can refresh my memory, what it's all about. Oh, you're going to say it later? I don't know.
The right to know?
Yeah, I don't. What is that?
Yep, so there's a motion or a proclamation of the Right to Know Week, September 27th to October 3rd, whereas the municipality of the County of Victoria has adopted the principles of openness, transparency, and accountability, and whereas Part 20 of the Municipal Government Act gives citizens a right to access to information in the custody or under control of the municipality, whereas access to information ensures citizens of Nova Scotia have the opportunity for meaningful participation in the democratic process, and whereas a celebration of the right of citizens to access information will facilitate informed public participation in policy formulation, ensure fairness in government decision-making, and permit the airing and reconciliation of divergent views, and whereas Victoria County joins all other Canadian jurisdictions and democracies worldwide in acknowledging International Right to Know Week, therefore be it resolved that I, Bruce Morrison, Victoria County, sorry, I'm reading this for you, do hereby proclaim September 27th to October 3rd to be Right to Know Week in the municipality of the County of Victoria.
Thank you.
So do we wish to make the motion to make this proclamation tonight?
Yeah, make the motion.
You make a motion that we adopt the proclamation, the Right to Know Week, September 22nd to October 3rd. Do we have a seconder for that, please?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion's carried, and we will make sure this proclamation goes in our minutes and also goes on our website. Thank you, Warden. Appreciate it. So is that worth mentioning this evening or not?
Nope.
Okay.
Right there.
Do we have any other issues in regards to new business? We have a 10-minute recess scheduled for 5:50. It is 6:12. I think we'll take a recess now and we'll reconvene at 6:25. So, and the next item up on the agenda is the taxation update, so that'll be provided by the CAO.
Thanks. So we're resetting our clock again by sending our tax bills out. So our numbers are going to seem really, really high, but they are high because we just sent out our tax bills. So current outstanding today is 8.8 million. It's about 700,000 higher than last year's total of 8.1 million. But that is because our tax bills went out later this year than they did last year. So our current outstanding of that 8.8 million is 8.2 million compared to 7.2 million this time last year. And arrears is 573,000 compared to last year's number of 256,000. So related to our tax sale, we had a tax sale on July 20th. There only ended up being 3 properties left on the sale for to actually be able to be sold through tender. And of those 3 properties, 1 bid came in on it and it was below the minimum bid, so it did not sell. We had lots of interest. We had 136 tenders received from 62 bidders. We will be having our next sale will be a public auction, so it'll be a live auction. We're hoping it's going to be mid-November, I believe, at this point. So that's information on the tax sale. Related to collections, we've collected about 376,000 since last year's, since last council's date. Last year's tax bills went out 2 weeks earlier than this year, so we're making our current seem higher than it was at this time last year. And yeah, our next tax sale will be mid-November. Just to let you know that we hired a new staff member down there to help with the busy tax load season, but then that also will free up some time for one of the more seasoned and more experienced tax collectors down there to start an initiative which they are starting to work on, finding properties that don't have an assessed value on them right now and assessing those and adding those to our tax roll. So that is a project that will be worked on in the tax department.
Thank you. Any questions in regards to the taxation report, the actual taxation numbers, or the tax sale? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you. 30 of the properties, I believe, were removed on the solicitor's advice.
Yep.
Could you just give me some, not every one by one, but just some of the general reasons why that takes place?
So our tax solicitor has kept us all out of jail and has been very conservative in his approach. And if there is something that has one little bit of without a clear title, he advises us not to sell them. So we have always taken a very conservative approach, and that's why it has not really come back to bite us. So we have again followed we followed all the proper steps to this point. We have up until we can pull properties from our tax sale up to 5 minutes prior to the sale. So we're not going to sell anything that we don't have a clear legal title on.
So what happens to those 30 properties? Do they go tax sale again, or do they just sit there?
No, so they're still in the queue. It doesn't mean that they're off the hook. We could still be waiting on information from the lawyer. It could be that we didn't have his opinion back. It could be that he said not to sell it. But there could be several different reasons. Yep.
Any other questions? Sorry. Any other questions or comments in regards to taxation? Sorry, and I think you said this in your report in regards to the tax sale. How many were taxes paid on a number of those accounts prior to going to sale?
Yes, they were. Yep. There was at least half of them that the properties were, of the list that we had, there was at least half of them that the taxes were paid.
Right. So there is an advantage putting properties that have outstanding taxes once they go to tax sale, then there is an incentive for people that owe the taxes to pay those taxes, I guess.
Correct, yep. And you wanted us to get more, council wanted us to get more aggressive, and we're getting more aggressive in our approach.
Great, thank you very much. We'll move up to the next item on council is concerns with the Department of Transportation Infrastructure Renewal, or TAT, and we'll start with Councillor Long. If anything for Department of Transportation.
Yes. At the beginning of the Murray Road, there's a tree hanging over the road, making it necessary to drive on the wrong side of the road to get past, and just the overgrowth everywhere in District 4 is encroaching onto the road in a lot of places and needs to be trimmed. All of these things I have already sent to Steve, but I just want to put them in the minutes. All the signage issues, which I've already requested, a lot of them haven't been done yet, like the hidden driveway on the Bay Road, the Plaster Mines Old Big Harbor Road sign, and the Kiad Mila Facha sign on the Gaelic College Hill. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor McLeod, anything for TIR?
Yes, it's again, I have it in the minutes last meeting, but the 29, 26, and 29, 30 Cabot Trail damage in the entrance is still waiting for be fixed, and the trimming is still in my district. After all this rain, it's just grow and grow again. So these two things they are in the last minutes, but I just, if I can send it to Steve, will be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McNeil, anything?
Yes, Warden. I had a meeting with residents on the New Glen Road, and they're looking for grading and ditching and some gravel for the road too. I wasn't I got in contact, emailed Steve McDonald about it, so hopefully something will be done. Like Councillor Long said too, the roads are in desperate need of mowing and trimming in District 1. I'd like to thank the work that has been done, thank them for the work that has been done on the gravel roads. Some work has been done, and I'm working with Steve on past issues, so thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor McNeil. Councillor McDonald, anything from District 8?
Yes, thank you, Warden. Just a few this evening for TIR. Gonna be, I guess, the same as the other councillors looking for the grader. I've had calls in regard to a Cabot's Landing Provincial Park. I have spoken with Morley McNeil with regard to that, and he said that TIR usually honors that when the grader comes to town. The Government Wharf Road in Dingwall is in bad need of a grading. Calls from local area fishermen and residents trying to gain access to the beach in Dingwall. I had spoken to TIR in regard to that, and they say that they don't grade that area. They have done so in the past because it's federal and belongs to. So I'd really like to try to find out who is responsible for that, because I've had representatives from that area call in regard to getting that road paved. So then when I turn around and contact TIR, they say that it's not really listed under their jurisdiction, but they have graded it in the past. So there's a bit of confusion there on both parts, and I'd just like to try and clarify that if we could. The brush cutter. Southridge Road is in bad need of brush cutting. It's down to one lane in certain spots. I had spoken to Steve in regard to that, and he said he thought as of last week it was being floated to Cape North. I've since found out that it's in Inverness County. So the brush cutter is on the missing list, and we desperately need it in District 8. The intersection in Dingwall, I brought it up last year. It's in bad need of cutting that area. Talked to the area super there, and they said they have it on their list to do. I'd just like the minutes to reflect to show that with TIR as well. And lastly, just looking for, I don't know if any of the other councillors had received, when we had our meeting with TIR in regard to the RIM project that was supposed to be distributed to each councillor, I brought that up a couple of councils back to see what was to be done in each district. I've yet to receive anything for District 8. supposed to have some paving work done in St. Margaret's Village. If we could check on that as well, please. And that would be it for District 8 this evening.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and we've captured the items that you brought forward this evening. Councillor Organ, anything from you? District 7, please.
Just a few things this evening. I was talking to Steve about the little incident on Wharf Road in North Ingonish, and it's going higher up to see about a speed change there. Also had a call about parking in Neils Harbor, about by the beach. It makes the road, they're parking on both sides of the road. It's making it hard for people to get out of their driveways. I passed all those concerns on to him, and he says he's going to look at it. And as Councillor McDonald said, I have not received anything either about anything that's going on in District 7 from TIR. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, thank you, Councillor. We've noted those. Deputy Warden Doffey.
Thank you, Warden. No, things are going well. I've been in touch with Steve and some of the local things. We have a number of complaints about driveways with low shoulders and the elephant ears taking over the highway. Been very grateful for the local staff. Have been excellent. Have looked after everything. The only one on the go right now with TRI is property that was affected by the construction of the road here last year. Looking for some, I guess, some repairs to his property based on the construction. So we're dealing with that. But other than that, no, things are going well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Warden. Councillor Patterson, District 5.
Thank you, Warden. No, all is well. So far, so good.
Thank you, and same with District 3. Nothing to add tonight that hasn't been brought to the attention of Steve McDonald. Are there any motions this evening? Notice of motions? None. We'll move on to district concerns, and we'll start with Councillor Patterson, please. District 5.
Thank you, Warden. It's not so much a district concern, but I would like Council to send a letter of congratulations to Peggy McNeil, who is retiring as the administrator at Alderwood Long-Term Care Facility. Wish her many happy years and thank her for her service to the community.
Thank you, Councillor. Well said, and we will forward a letter as requested. Thank you. Deputy Warden, your district.
Thank you, Warden. No real concerns. I guess one question maybe I should have brought up on our new business. In regards to the lands, we did look at lands that we had within the municipality that we were willing to use for development of housing and whatnot. There is one section, there's a large parcel of land in the Ingonish area, and I've been trying to locate it, and I'm not sure, is there a way of finding out exactly where it is? And I'm just wondering, has that land ever been surveyed? And do we know if there's water, sewage, any type of, I know there's nothing there right now, but is it possible to put that in there? I'm just wondering if we could do some research ahead of time. And I just wondering, what is our plan as far as surveying? If it hasn't been surveyed, it's going to be expensive, but are we looking at doing that, or how would we handle that?
So I guess that would be part of the housing committee to make that decision.
Okay.
So I don't know right now, but I will look into it,
Okay.
and we'll take it to the housing committee. And you guys can decide on go forward steps.
No, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you. That's all for District 6.
Maybe, Deputy Warden, if we could have a quick housing committee meeting on July 28th after the
Good idea.
short finance committee. If you, as chair, you okay with that? And
That would be perfect. Yep, no, let's make that a deal.
perfect. We'll add that. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Councillor Organ, anything from your district tonight?
Yeah, I have a few things. I had a request for caution children playing to put on the Wharf Road. I've received those. I also have been getting a few calls on the tipping fees, and I had one email from Mr. Doyon that I passed on to Leanne. Also, I had a request of wondering if the county had any projects that would put picnic tables on the beach in North Ingonish. I spoke to Dan, and he said there's nothing that the county does, but he forwarded me an email website for funding, and I passed that on to the gentleman that's looking for this. And I also like to make a motion for $1,000 out of my district budget to go to the Neils Harbor New Haven Development Association towards repair and expansion of the Cenotaph New Haven.
That is a motion by Councillor Organ. Do we have a seconder for it, please? Seconded by Councillor McDonald. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you.
And that's everything for me.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McDonald.
Sorry, yes, Warden, just a few this evening. I've had some calls in regard to, with the tipping fees too, through commercial businesses, and have directed them to the appropriate areas of Public Works for further inquiries there. And I have submitted a letter to the CAO from a gentleman in my district in regard to the tipping fees. I've sent a copy to each one on council as well. I'd just like to minutes reflect that was received. The road into the Dingwall transfer station needs some repair. I'm not sure if that should have been brought up under TIR or if it's through Public Works, the commercial and residential people that go to the transfer stations, that the road's in some need of repair. If we could just maybe direct that to Public Works, please. And thirdly, the condition of Cabin Landing Provincial Parks. I've had calls from residents who have listed various concerns with the park, and I have directed them to the park staff, and have had been in conversation with parks on these issues. But one thing that stood out, there was a local resident that she was inquiring, I guess, through people coming from the park and taking their garbage and putting it in their garbage box. And Parks has a policy where they carry in, you carry out. There's no garbage containers within the park. And I was in conversation with Mr. McNeil on that subject, and they didn't really have a remedy for that. So she was just wondering if there was, well, what will we do there? Because people are using the park by taking their garbage and putting it in their garbage box. So I said I didn't really know if that was a municipal, where it comes from Parks, which is provincial.
Yeah, probably not, just she might want to look investing into a lock on her garbage can.
I'll pass that on. No, I just wanted to be sure because it's been happening frequently,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So-
And then I'd say that if the lock is there and then it looks like you can't get into it and then people will stop using it, maybe, that would be your first fix, because there's not really anything that we can do about it. Our collection crew go out, and what's in the garbage, you get judged based on what's in your own garbage can. So if it's other people's garbage, then they might want to invest in a lock.
Right. And just jumping back there, in regard to the first concern with the tipping fees, a couple of the businesses have contacted me in regard asking about a scale, if there would be a possibility of maybe investigating a portable scale as such. I'm just wondering if I could task you to maybe pass it on to Public Works, just...
Yep, so we'll look into the cost of, and the feasibility, if it can have, the logistics and feasibility, if it can happen. For now, I think we've decided that that location is going forward with volume. But we will certainly look into a portable scale to see if it works, and we'll bring it back to council. We'll see what we find related to that. Or we'll bring it to a Public Works meeting, probably.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
And lastly, I'd like to take $1,500 from my District 8 budget, $1,000 of that being for the St. Paul's Island Museum in Dingwall to assist with the installation of entry ramps and stairs, and the remaining $500 to the Bay St. Lawrence Fire Department in aid of work being completed through a student grant there. And that's it for District 8, Warden. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald has made a motion for $1,000 to the St. Paul Lighthouse and Society and $500 to Bay St. Lawrence.
Did we do a motion for Jackie's?
Yep.
I
So it's-
second that.
The $500, I'm sorry, the second one was for the
The
Bay St.
second one was $500 towards Bay St. Lawrence Fire Department.
Okay. So those two financial requests, we have a motion for Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor McNeil. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you, Councillor. Sorry for the confusion there on my behalf. Councillor McNeil.
Yes, thank you, Warden. I too had a few calls on the tipping fees, not basically on the tipping fees, but the lack of notice that went out prior to the changes in the garbage collection. I told them that letters were handed out at the depot, but I think something should have been sent out probably to the vendors too prior to that. Also, the Washput Community Center is having a golf tournament, their annual golf tournament, and they're wondering if the county would like to put a team in to support that. And I indicated that we would. So it's just the green fees and cost of a rental from each player. So I'm willing to take that out of my district budget for that.
Okay, thank you.
And school busing issues. Again, I'm having quite a bit of phone calls this year. The ongoing issue with a student from Jubilee Road, and also there's a new policy of kids being picked up 2.4 kilometers away from the school now. Pre-primary and primary, I think it's down to a kilometer. But there's areas less than a kilometer away from Rankin School in Linares that there's no shoulders on the road over there. They have to go around a turn. It's very dangerous. And I was in contact with the Cape Breton Victoria Regional Center for Education about it. They told me to call Lewis McDonald's office, and hopefully the parents will get it fixed, the problem fixed. But I think we should have a meeting with the Center of Education staff and officials to talk about these busing issues that are coming up, especially for rural areas. It's easy to say 2.5 kilometers in a city or a town when they have a sidewalk, but when they have no shoulders, and actually the shoulders that are there are overrun by elephant ears now, and it's getting to the point that it's getting to the point that it's dangerous for kids to walk to school.
So with that, if you'd like to have a meeting with them, then we'd probably have to set up something Zoom, via Zoom, and we'll ask CAO or Steph to contact them, and the councillors that are affected by that can sit in on that meeting.
Yeah. Even with Susan Kelly, the director, Lewis McDonald, and Tara, so to Tara Gaskell.
Tara Gaskell, okay, and we have those, and we will contact and set it up, and it will be available to whichever councillors it is an issue for, and be able to bring your concerns forward directly to them. Good point.
Thank you. That's it.
That's it for you, sir?
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor MacLeod, anything in your district?
Yeah, it's another year asking for the Iskaven Falls. And we know we have the main trail was upgraded and is in good shape. So I would like to ask DNR if they have any deadline or plans to do the river trail. We asked them that last year. They told us they was just doing the main trail last year. So wonder if they can start moving forward to the river trail.
Okay, that's a letter to DNR in regards to that. The motion from Councillor MacLeod. Do we have a seconder?
I second.
Seconded by Councillor McNeil. All in favour? Contrary minded? Motion's carried. Thank you.
And just it's a comment. Last Friday, the RCMP make the first youth getaway with the kids in the community. So I just would like to congratulate them and good job. Like it's the first time RCMP with the kids there together. They make the barbecue and all that. So just a letter for congratulations, and I told them the municipality is open to work with them. So just to acknowledge that today.
We will send a note to Staff Sergeant acknowledging his community involvement with particular youth of the communities. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will forward that on shortly. Councillor Longva, anything in District 4?
Yes, I already spoke with Zena in regard to these, but I just wanted to say it publicly and have it in the minutes that I'm giving $400 from my district budget to the Pine Hill Cemetery, and I'm giving $500 to the Gale College Museum. The Giant McCaskill Museum in Englishtown, and then $250 to the Bedeck Ladies Auxiliary, who make up the welcome baskets. And in regard to graveyards, Time Bank has made that one of their initiatives. So they will be organizing crews to do work in graveyards later on in August and September. And I just wanted to bring up that there's a big celebration going on called Explore the Bras d'Or, and myself and Councillor Paul McNeil sit on the board of CEPI, and they're involved in that, and it's going to be running from July 24th for 2 weeks to August 7th. And they have an event calendar posted on their website and their Facebook page. It's explorethebradour.com is their website, and they have a lot of really exciting things going on, as well as including things that have always gone on, like the regatta and other events on the Bras d'Or. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much for your report tonight. I have just a couple of quick things. If I could, Deputy Warden, I'd like to make a motion to send a letter to Graham McKenzie from the local PharmaSave. They vaccinated over 5,000 people, and that's quite an accomplishment for a small pharmacy in a small county and a small community. So, well done, and I'd like to make that a motion that we...
Motion on the floor. Do we have a seconder for that motion?
Second.
Second by Councillor MacLeod. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
I just had an inquiry, a suggestion by one of an individual the other day, and I'm just perhaps between Councillor MacLeod and Councillor Patterson, because it's in regards to transit. Just wondering with our transit system, that small transit service we have, whether or not we could put, or maybe they already do, put the information in the different hotels and motels, because I'm sure there are tourists that come in, we don't have a taxi, and it might be a way of generating more. So if we could get some of their contact information, drop them off north and south in some of the tourist establishments, and maybe it'll utilize some of the more ridership on the... So if we could, I'll leave that with you too. Also had a request with the Waterfront Committee that's down here. Develop Nova Scotia was the main funder of that project. It's going along quite well. I had a request from a couple of their members to accompany them to go to Lunenburg. They developed Nova Scotia is much further ahead with Lunenburg. They invested and finished that project, and our sense is there would probably be great value to go up and see what that looks like, and see if we can incorporate and follow their lead, so to speak. So it's just asking permission of council to accompany those or travel to Lunenburg when and if that should become available. So, and that's I don't know if I need a motion for that, but I'd just like to have permission from council to... Is anybody opposed to it, I guess is what I should say. And it may be open to other councillors as well, but I think it'd be quite a bit to learn from. The last thing I just want to mention this evening, two quick things. One is Councillor MacLeod and I were asked to just kind of join another very small group and do a little visioning around the Bedecken area, just in light of the fact that the waterfront project's on the go. Discussion about the rink trying to get renovated, and our own building is under consideration because we have a request for proposals to see what the structural integrity is. So there's just a kind of a general conversation just out with a couple of groups in the community, and that's all it is. I just wanted to let council know that. So we're not out there actively promoting any particular project. We're just sitting in as interested residents and also as councillors as well. So We are certainly not making any promises, or we're not saying anything one way or the other. Clearly, when the report comes back in this building, we're going to be given some options. We don't know what they are, but it's no harm having the discussions at any time. So just for your information. And the last thing I just wanted to mention this morning, CAO Dan Coffin, Director of Tourism, Councillor McLeod and myself were asked to meet with a couple of members of VABTA, and just they want to express their concerns about the downturn in the tourism industry and how it's clearly affecting businesses in Victoria County, in this particular case mostly around southern Victoria County. So we had a good conversation just around that. They wanted to make us aware of the crisis that they are facing right now, because the restaurants are suffering, a lot of rooms are empty, and as a result, they really feel that they're up against it, both from a business point of view, and I'm sure as a business owner it is a rather daunting time to be in that particular business. So we just asked them to provide some of their concerns and present them to council. And we clearly made it clear to them that we're very supportive of the tourism industry in Victoria County. It is probably our second largest industry. It's a source of a lot of employment and substantial revenue. So I just want to read this very quickly. It is 4 paragraphs, so just so you know, it's not that long, but if you'll bear with me, I was going to try to summarize it, but I'm scared that I will leave out some of their valuable points. So just for information purposes, and I'd just be interested in some or any other comments from any other councillors from any other districts that have heard similar comments in regards to the industry in their area. So I will start this. After speaking with a number of community businesses in Victoria County, it is quite evident tourism now is in a crisis position. Although operators' statistics for 2020 were down 70 to 90%, we are predicting an even worse outcome for 2021. Our Visitor Information Centre in Badek has counseled 90% less visitors in 2021 than in 2019, and 14% less than July this year as opposed to July 2020. Some businesses chose not to be open during the 2020 season due to COVID. This enabled those who did open in 2020 to capture a bigger piece of the market, whether it was hotel nights, restaurant dining, gift shops, etc. In 2021 season, we are looking at more businesses open with fewer people traveling within our county using these facilities. One area noted by many accommodation operators is the confusing information available on the COVID restrictions and timelines to accurately address questions posed from potential out-of-province travelers. We want long-haul visitors to be assured they will not go to our borders only to be turned away because of misinformation. When this occurs, these visitors choose another destination, and with very competitive incentives to tourists from PEI and New Brunswick governments, it is easy to see how we are at a competitive disadvantage here in Nova Scotia. Supports like the emergency wage subsidy held it together for businesses struggling in 2020. Changes coming to that program in coming months will reduce the financial cushion. We all understand that 2020 would be challenging and had concerns that it could be extended into 2021, and here we are. With the exception of dwindling support programs where there are recovery supports that will help tourism-focused businesses survive from now until a successful and safe season can happen in 2022. I'm sorry, that should say, where are the recovery supports that will help tourism-based tourism-focused businesses survive from now until a successful and safe season that can happen in 2022. I corrected that. We respectfully bring these concerns forward to share with Council after conversation with this meeting and with local business owners. And that's been submitted by Eileen Montgomery. She owns the Badek Lobster Supper, and Kathy Lamy, who owns the Cabot Trail Motel. And they met with us as representatives of BABTA today just to kind of give us the overall lay of the land as far as tourism in southern Victoria County right now. So clearly there are challenges. Clearly they feel they're in crisis. And since I was not the only one at that meeting today, I just, if either Councillor McLeod or the CA will wish to comment further on it, or do you feel that adequately covers our conversation today?
I think it covers the conversation. I believe what they are, we asked them what was that we could expect to help them with. And they thought if we advocated with the province for better communication on openings or dates, that might help a lot. And if there was some type of emergency or wage subsidy or something to help them through this season as well.
No, you said it all, yeah.
Sorry. I guess at the end of the day, I'm thinking, did you guys, have you heard anything north or similar comments?
I guess, yeah, Warden, down north, we're seeing the same thing. Keeping a close eye on especially the restaurants in the area, and it seems like things are coming in surges. They might have a busy day, but then they'll have 4 or 5 days where, traffic is next to nil. I've never seen it so bad. We're hoping that we're going to have a good fall, but like I say, the communication I don't think is there. We're not seeing the year even that we had last year.
So I'm just wondering if, with our role as advocating for industry, whether we send a letter to the Premier and we send a letter to the Minister of Tourism, just clearly asking for better clarification around some of the programs they have that will help our industry as opposed to creating some hindrances.
Just one thing about like Central Cape Breton. I find unless they're working on the Sea Island Bridge, but the traffic through Central Cape Breton this year is, I'd say it's up from the last 3 years. Like it's just steady traffic. I don't know whether the businesses are any busier, but the traffic itself seems to be twice as much.
Yeah, and you know, one loss is another gain. I mean, the traffic is going to travel to the most convenient route. So, so what are the thoughts with council? Do you think we should bring these concerns forward with the Premier and Department of Tourism? And what would you see as being the content of that letter? Or from our conversation today, did you get a clear sense of what it is that they'd be looking for, or do you think we should go back and get more information from them? A copy of this document has been forwarded to you late this evening.
Oh, I think it was the miscommunication. They said they're getting calls from travelers or potential travelers, and the travelers are saying, do you know what will happen if I get to the border? And it's hard to find the information. That seems to be silent right now on those types of things. So that's hard to plan a trip around or give the advice if something was to be misinformation at the border.
Aren't the borders open to all of Canada right now? And coming up, if you're from the States, you have to have two needles?
I think the example that they used was if you're traveling with your kids from Ontario and you could choose to go to PEI where you don't have to wear a mask, or you go to Nova Scotia and you have to wear one, then clearly you'd probably choose PEI if you had to choose one Atlantic province. I don't think we're advocating to get rid of safety, because I think that we have been a shining star through all of this in Nova Scotia, but we also need to offer some help or guidelines that our tourism operators can use. I think it's the communication side of it.
I think maybe what we'll do is perhaps ask our Director of Tourism to talk to a number of the industry and representatives from the industry and see what the common theme is, and then we'll ask him to direct those concerns directly to the Premier and to the Minister of Tourism. So I'd like to make that a motion if we could.
Motion, do we have a seconder for that motion?
Second.
Second by Councillor Organ. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion passed.
Thank you, Deputy, and I think, just let me check the book. That is it. So those are the district concerns for tonight. We have a bylaw this evening. It is the Municipality of County Victoria deed transfer bylaw, and we need, I guess if you have any questions about it, it has been circulated to you. If you had a chance, if you're okay with it, we need a motion to approve, to accept the first reading
So
of the
that
deed transfer bylaw.
this is the amendment to the deed transfer tax bylaw. So this bylaw has been in place since, I believe, 2006. So we did a motion earlier in the year to increase the deed transfer tax from 1% to 1.5%. So this bylaw amendment is just related to that 1.1 to 1.5% change. So we're asking that first reading be done this evening.
I'll motion that we accept the first reading.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Do we have a seconder, please?
Second.
Second by Councilor MacLeod. All in favor? Contrary minded? The first reading deed transfer has been approved.
So we will be having our second reading on August 23rd, and there will be the public hearing prior to that.
Okay, and we guess in last week we all took a course on bylaw procedures, and we were following the correct process before. It's just more clear to us now, and we're going to make sure that we clearly follow those recommendations as we always have. We're just going to make them a bit more clear. Policy review. We're good. The last item is correspondence. A couple of items have been referenced earlier, so turn it over to CAO for correspondence that has been received.
So these came up during district concerns related to tipping fees. Those two letters have been passed on to us. I think they've been shared to all council over the last couple of weeks. And I'm letting you know that based on that, we'll be investigating to see if a portable scale could be put down at the Dingwall transfer station. I can't guarantee it, but we will look into it and look at the costing and the options for it. And we'll bring that back to council to see if it's even viable. But as of right now, we're going to go with what we have.
Definitely.
So.
If I can make a comment, I only received two, inquiries on it, and one after explaining was in favor of the tipping fees, another one would like to see it postponed. But I also had one or two residents that applauded us for taking this to make us equal with the other municipalities. So it's all, there's just some positive stuff on this bylaw out there also.
Yeah, we're really not, so we compared across the province. We're one of the last, as the presentation that was showed to you, there was a PowerPoint presentation back in February, I believe. We're one of the last to implement this. And is there a reason why we're one of the last? Not sure, I don't know if, anyway, it's time.
It was also a recommendation by the study that we had commissioned as well, correct?
Right.
So, not to lose sight of that either. Is there any other issues to come to council tonight?
Just one other thing. I'd like to thank the Director of Tourism and the Director of Recreation and the CAO for the meetings we've had over in my district about tourism and other issues. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. Deputy Warden.
I also would like to say thank you to Amy for all her hard work. I'm really sorry to see it's coming to an end, but glad you're going to be here for a couple more months, and hope you can become part of our team. You've been greatly appreciated.
Yep, she was a great find.
Well done, Amy. Thank you very much. A round of applause for Amy, please. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Warden. Just following up on your first item about the pharmacy next door, I had my second shot there. I was out before I was supposed to go in. They were that efficient. And it didn't hurt a bit. And I'm a wimp when it comes to needles. So if you didn't get vaccinated, doesn't hurt, takes a few minutes, go do it.
Get her done.
You look tougher with that shirt on. That's all I can say.
I got mine done at a drive-through.
Wow.
They did 3 of us.
Okay, our last, just the last comment tonight. I think all my years in council, I have memorable nights, but I think this is going to be one of my more memorable ones when I see Councillor Patterson, one of the biggest Toronto Maple Leaf fans, sitting down at the end of the table in a Montreal Canadiens sweater. And I just remind you, Fraser, like, don't gamble, don't.
I'm going to make this a standing bet with Councilor McNeil. We'll see what happens next year.
As you've noticed, I've moved away.
So, we don't have any comments or anything online? Thank you.
So there's nothing currently.
And nope, so we will be meeting July 28th.
August 23rd?
No, but for the,
Oh, sorry.
yeah,
Yes, sorry.
thank you. That July 28th will be by Zoom,
Yes,
is August 23rd.
August 23rd.
Okay, and if for some reason that we need to meet, we can always have a committee of the whole meeting if something should schedule. All right, that is it for council this evening. We just have a motion to adjourn. Thank you for your time and attention this evening. Moved by Councilor McNeil, we adjourn. We are adjourned.